Hey guys, Alex here and welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year to you guys. It is 2022 and I'm so excited. I hope you guys all had an amazing last year. I did, at least. I don't think it could have been better than it was, and if it could have been, then I mean, I can't do anything about it now, so let's just move on. I hope you guys had a good year at least. If you didn't, accept it and move on, because life is way too short and it doesn't stop for anyone. But before we move forward, we have to discuss last year's best albums. So my top albums of this year, I have prepared about 10 albums I'm going to discuss, but only the first 5 will be in a specific order. The others will probably just be honorable mentions, and yeah. Coming in 5th place is metalsisterz with the album Dahom. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'll put it on the screen for you. If you don't know of the band metalsisterz, they're a German band that plays atmospheric folkish black metal, and I discovered these in 2020, and I loved them from when I started listening to them, so I was very excited when they released this album, because I was expecting the same strong, powerful, dynamic variety in their riffs and between songs and everything. But even though this album made my top 5, this isn't their best work. And even though I'm saying it's not their best work, keep in mind that I haven't listened to that much metal this year, so I have few albums to reference to and choose between. But anyways, this album is beautiful. It has a perfect blend of atmospheric black metal, folk metal, and instrumental sections throughout the entire album and in every song. You can clearly hear that they have taken inspiration from bands such as Panopticon and Wolves in the Throne Room. And all in all, what is good and what I like about the album is I don't quite understand what they're saying, but I still connect with it. And for me, sometimes I don't even put value in what they're singing about, because sometimes I just listen more to their music rather than what they're actually saying, because sometimes I just value the music more than the lyrics, and that just differs from where I am in my mindset, or just depending on which band it is. The thing that I don't like about this album, or what is quite dull with this album, is even though they're very dynamic and they have good riffs and solid and beautiful atmospheric folk and instrumental sections. The thing is, if you're a big atmospheric black metal fan, such as me, then this is an album that you've probably heard before. And I'm saying that not because, like, you haven't heard it before if you haven't listened to it, obviously, but all the songs follow the same structure as their previous albums and the same structure as a typical atmospheric black metal song has, such as a slow, folky, instrumental intro going into a furious, distorted blast beat section with epic, strong melodies and riffs. And it's all awesome and it's nice, it's good music, but it's pretty predictable, and that's what makes it quite boring. And my favorite song from this album is probably gonna have to be the second song on the album, which is Im Bergers Forst. I cannot pronounce for shit, but I'm putting it on the screen. In 4th place, we have the band Netherbird with their album Arit, which they released pretty early on in the year. If you don't know who Netherbird is, it's a Swedish band, and I've listened to this band for maybe 2 years now. And what I like about Netherbird is that it took me some time to actually get into them, because their music requires you to actually focus a bit, because it has so much depth and emotion and different layers. But once you get into that, it's really good and powerful. I started listening to their new album with that mindset of, okay, I have to sit down, relax, and focus. But that wasn't the case this time. Okay, like, sure, this album is good. Once again, it's not this band's best work either, but it's I wouldn't say it's their worst, but I find it quite boring that this album is more listener friendly. They changed the production sound. It's not as distorted, it's more mellow, it's more smooth. They smoothened it out. I can almost compare it to, I don't know, Dark Tranquillity's Atma to their like Damaged Done CD, you know, like the contrast between the rawness and then like the smooth but still distorted metal. Like, it's not bad. I still like Atma and all of that and all the smoothness and stuff, but it's not what I expected from that type of band. I just didn't feel like it was Netherbird. Of course, I still, everything else about like the melodies and the riffs and the drums and everything, it was Netherbird. I could hear their sound and the vocals are to die for, but why do you have to change the sound sometimes? Sometimes like experimenting is good, and I experiment too with music, but sometimes I just want what I expect from a certain bands. But you know, they can't make everybody happy, and I'm not saying it's bad because the album made my top 4, nor 5, and it's in 4th place. But I mean, all in all, what's good about it, what I like about it is that it's good, it's dynamic, forceful melodies, and even though they changed their sound a bit to something that I find more boring and not as emotional, it's not dull, even though dull and boring is almost the same thing. It's not boring because between every song in every album they vary melodies, they vary the dynamic. You can't really expect or predict something because in every song they structure it in a different way, how they build up the song and everything, and that's what's good about it. And to mention my favorite song from that album, Arit, is probably The Silence of Provence or Towers of the Night. And in 3rd place we have the band Wolves in the Throne Room with their album Primordial Arcana. And if you guys don't know of Wolves in the Throne Room, they're from America, and it's a band that started between 2 brothers, and I've seen these live actually, just have to mention that, but it was a long time ago. All in all, what I like about this album is that, as every other Wolves in the Throne Room album, the album requires you to listen and focus on their music. And as I already said, I like when music or bands require you to actually focus to the music, because that means there's just more depth, there's more emotion, there's more hidden things. It's like Hemingway's iceberg theory, the way he said so much with so little, so you have to really listen, focus, and analyze what is happening with the music and sometimes the lyrics to understand what they actually want to give you and what they want you to feel and understand and just take from their music. The overall theme and the overall feel that I get from this album and why I like it and love it and why it's at 3rd place is because it gives you a clear connection to nature. I always feel that if I'm just listening to the album while I'm about to go to bed, or if I'm just reading a book, or if I'm just sitting and listening to it and not even going outside, I still feel like I'm outside, that I'm on this journey, walking through nature. I can feel the wind, I can see birds, animals, and you know, and that's just what I like about metal overall, when atmospheric metal or any music in general can make you feel, when the music is going the one way, you're following it, and you know, when you just can feel the music and it just takes you to a whole other place. But yeah, this is also just an album that I can listen to when I'm taking a walk or something. And yeah, so overall why I like this album is because the contrast between the instruments, the dynamic play between the instruments and how they structure every song just gives me a good feeling, and I like it. I can't say more than that. It's just well put together, well thought out, and there's not more I can say than my favorite songs from this album has to be Spirit of Lightning or Masters of Rain and Storm. So check them out. So in second place, this is very hard for me because it feels like this should be a tie for first place. But since I saw one of these bands live this year, I'll give the first place to that band. So in second place we have Panopticon. Panopticon's newest album is called And Again Into the Light, and wow, what more can I say? Of course I can say a bit more, I can explain more, but in one word, wow. This album is an album of emotion, and if you follow this channel, if you followed me for a while, you know that I'm all about feeling a lot of emotion when I listen to music. That is the main reason why I like metal so much, because there is so much depth of emotion and feelings and thoughts and stuff that the artist wants us to like catch on to. And it's just amazing. But now I won't get into why I love metal. That's a whole another thing. This album is hard for me to explain, but Panopticon captured me with this album because if I compare it to other more black, atmospheric, melodic bands, this album is pretty straightforward with what it wants to tell you, what they wanted to tell you with this music, give you with this music, and what they want you to take and feel from this music. And sometimes it's sometimes it's not very obvious in metal what the band wants you to feel with the music. Sometimes maybe the lyrics can fuck it up a bit and confuse you between the music and the lyrics, because sometimes, I talked about this before, sometimes they match, sometimes they don't match, and sometimes if you just read, it's awesome, but then when you put it with the music, it doesn't really fit, but then you only listen to the music and it gives you a whole nother feeling and all of that stuff. And that's why this album is hard to explain, because, well, that's why this album maybe isn't that hard to explain, because it's straightforward, and what he wants you to feel is what he is feeling. So he's conveying his feelings into the music, and that's why I feel that I could connect to this album very well, and therefore it is the second album on this list. And it's very unpredictable, but it all makes sense at the same way, because I mean, well, maybe it doesn't make sense because emotions don't make sense sometimes, but then again, in some ways it does make sense how you react to different situations. But then again, you can't control what is happening, but you can control how you react to a situation. So I mean, it's just a whole lot, and when it becomes a whole lot like this is why I like albums, when I can sit and discuss them with myself for a long time. But all in all, it's a very strong and powerful album, and I'm having a hard time putting it all into words, as you guys are noticing. But the song As Dead Looms, it can make you feel like you're surrounded by darkness, but then the contrast to the song The Embers at Dawn, you feel like there's a warmth as if you're like looking at a sunrise or a sunset, and it's dynamic, it's thought out, it's emotional, strong, powerful, and this album is just epic. And my favorite songs on this album have to be No Hope, like not No Hope, but KNOW, Hope, A Snowless Winter, and The Embers at Dawn. Really good songs. And at first place, if you guys haven't figured it out yet, we have Wormwood. They won. They succeeded. They're number one on this list in my heart and in my life. No, but still kind of yes. You know me, I'm still gonna be faithful and loyal to Insomnium, but Wormwood whipped their ass this year. Wormwood has created such an epic album I can't even explain. I did a review of their album when it came out earlier on this year, so if you haven't, go watch it now or watch it after this video. But as I explained in that video, this album, yes, they changed not their unique sound and their way to write music, but the production of it is different, so there is a different sound to when you listen to the first song compared to the other two previous albums. Arkivet is just another level of raw, strong power, emotion, and the overall theme with the album is humans suck, and I agree, and we're ruining the earth, which is just a fact, and that's one reason why I like it, or love this album, is because that humans suck and that we're destroying the earth is something that I can discuss non-stop. Therefore, this album just sums up all my anger towards everybody else in this world, besides maybe people in the metal community, because we're awesome and we understand that there's a real issue at hand. Not that others don't, but at least we can convey it beautifully and just on such an intellectual level through music, which Wormwood has done, and just wow. But more concretely, what can I say about this album? I think I said this in my review of the album, and I'm picturing all these 3 albums that I started in the south of Sweden, wandering up to the utterst north we can come here in Scandinavia, and there you're just trying to either get away from humanity and trying to become your own person and trying to be the best person you can be towards nature. But at the same time, I can also take it as I'm just trying to get somewhere, I'm trying to get through this, I'm trying to... It all depends on how you personally perceive and take all of these albums. Because I can go on and on in different ways that I analyze all of these albums, but then we would sit here for probably like 2 hours. But all in all, to get more concrete to why this album is at the top, not only because I strongly agree and love the theme and what they're conveying with the music, musically, all the instruments and how they have built up every song with the structure and how they've written it, and when they have tremolo picking, when they have riffs and the dynamic between every instrument, it's just genius, utter fucking genius. And I can't say more than it's just well put together. Like, it's written well, they're smart, they didn't rush this album, and I'm thankful for that. And this band is a good example of like when experimenting with different sounds is good. Not that it's never not good to experiment with different sounds, but they experimented, they brought a new sound, and it paid off. My favorite songs on this album, if I can't say all of the songs and I have to pick 1 or 2, then it's definitely End of Message, My Northern Heart, Ensamheten, and The Gentle Touch of Humanity. But if I have to pick 2 and not 4, which is like basically half the album, then End of Message and Ensamheten. Quickly, some honorable mentions, and just because I mentioned Insomnium, they released an EP this year, and yes, it was good, and I can appreciate that they also experimented with a new sound. I can understand why, as I said, why bands experiment with new sounds, and I can't really say that I was surprised by them releasing something completely acoustic. It was like, it was gonna happen sooner or later, and I'm glad they did. What I don't like about it is that, okay, clean vocals are nice sometimes, but the way they had clean vocals, not so good. And now I can't remember which song it was, but in one song they have a orgle or synth like solo instead of a guitar solo. And I'm not saying that there always has to be a guitar solo. I can appreciate a bass or drum solo, and I would have appreciated if they had like a cello, violin, or a normal piano solo, but No, I liked it, but it's not my favorite work of Insomnium. But it's an honorable mention. Also, another honorable mention is Everdane. I haven't had enough time to get a real feel for it. What I can say is that it's good, and I'm happy they released something new, but it's quite dull because there's not a lot of variety musically in every song, and there's not a lot of variety and stuff happening between every song. Like, if you compare all the songs, everything's quite the same, so just sounding the same. But it's solid. It's just a good album, but I do prefer their older work compared to this one. 2 band discoveries of this year is IXXI and Avanandid, 2 of the bands that I saw on my birthday. If you haven't seen that video, go check that video. But 2 very epic bands, and if they had released something this year, they would probably be on this list. But since they hadn't released anything on this last year, I couldn't put it wouldn't make sense to put them on my top 5 2021 albums. But they're on my top 5 or top 2 new discoveries of last year. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this very, very flimsy ass video, and I hope to see you guys more often this year. So have a great 2022, you guys, because I know that I'm gonna make this year my best, most effective, epic year ever in every which way I can, and I'm excited to bring you guys on the journey. And I hope you guys have made some big epic promises to yourself and put up goals that you want to achieve, because goals and determination are what make people better and grow and blossom and bloom. So, with all that said and done, thank you guys so much for watching this flimsy ass video once again, and I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Bye!